Jan and Indra, all both together.
Okay, we're at chapter 9, text 3. Asraddadhanah purusah dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya nivartante mrtyu-samsara-vartmani. Translation: those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So, purport: faithless cannot accomplish this process of devotional service. That is the purport of this verse. Faith is created by associating with devotees. So faith. Faith what? What is the faith? Faith is that there's God, his name is Krishna, and that I'm his servant. This is the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. I mean, people don't care for Bhagavad Gita. They may just take something from it. But if we study the whole Bhagavad Gita, we see that Krishna is repeatedly telling us and telling Arjuna that he's the supreme personality. No one is equal to him or greater than him. And that we are also part of him. Mama Vamsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We're the fragmented, Vamsa means part. So we're the particle of Krishna or God. And the material energy is also part of him. This is explained in the 7th chapter: earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are my separated or external energy. Besides this are the living beings like us, the jiva. And besides that, there's me. So 3 categories. There's the Lord and his immediate expansions, the Vishnu Tattva we call it. And then there's the living entity called Jiva Tattva. And then there's material energy. So in one sense, everything is one because nothing is outside of God. But within that oneness, there's variety. Just like fire is one, but it has 2 energies, light and heat. They're distinct energies in some way. I mean, you can get heat from the radiator. There's no fire there. But it's still the energy of fire. So light and heat are energies of fire. The living entities are energy of Krishna. Material energy is an energy of Krishna. And the Lord himself expands himself in innumerable forms. Vishnu and Rama and Nrsimha. But also, it all comes back to the one.
So, Prabhuji, can you... No, I do have a question in this thing. You said that, fire has 2 energies, right? So
yeah.
The energy you said that is which is the good, but is a bad one. But can you explain on the bad energy on this?
No, it's not bad from God's point of view. Just like the prison house is not bad from the government's point of view. They're maintaining the prison house. It costs money, but they need to do that just to keep the criminals off the street. To keep the, dacoits and mafia from being very prominent. So therefore the whole police organization is there. From the prisoner's point of view, it looks bad. Or from the criminal's point of view, they don't like the police. But we like the police because they're doing a service to keep the civilization, to keep us a little civilized. So similarly, the material world, it looks like it's bad, but it's not bad from Krishna's point of view or from the pure devotee's point of view. It's a wonderful contrivance arranged by the Lord to keep the living entities who are envious of God from disturbing the spiritual world. So they come to the material world. And therefore they imagine that they're God in some way. God is the supreme enjoyer, the supreme controller, the supreme proprietor. But they want to be the biggest enjoyer. They want to be the most powerful person. But in the spiritual world, nobody has that mentality. That's a criminal mentality. The living entity can never be God. He's always small. So therefore, we preach against this idea that your Chaitanya had and that everything is God. That's a half-truth, and it's dangerous, because then you start thinking, I'm God. But if you're God, then why are you in this condition of old age, disease, and death? What kind of God is it that has to suffer miseries from other living entities, miseries from their own nature, miseries from their own mind and body, and miseries from the weather and so on? What kind of God are we? So we're not God. We're the particle of God. We have the same quality as God, but God is great and we're small. Because we're small, sometimes we become covered by the third energy, the material energy. But the Krishna comes, or he sends his representative to say, if you follow this path, then you can get out of this covering of Maya or illusion, and you can come to the spiritual side. Therefore, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, if we come to that spiritual side, even in this life, then we can experience full liberation, even in this life. So this is the goal. And someone will say, well, it's not possible. But therefore, Krishna comes and he speaks, or he sends his representative. Like we think Srila Prabhupada is a representative of Krishna. And he's coming, he's showing us how we can be in this material world, but not of it. We can transcend it, even while we're here. And he's giving us the teaching how to do that, just like Arjuna. The answer is, you do it for me, Arjuna. That's what Krishna tells Arjuna. Arjuna wants to give up the fighting, but Krishna says, no, it's your duty, but do it for me. This is the real dharma, to do everything for the pleasure of the Lord. If we all act on that platform, then we can very quickly transcend the influence of this, what you call bad energy, Maya. Maya has no hold on us. Sometimes the sadhu is asked, well, can you explain to me what is Maya? So he stands up, he runs over and he embraces a tree and he says, let me go, let me go. So the tree is not holding him, but that's we're held because we're attached to Maya. We want an advantage here in this world. We want to be great. We want to be famous. We want to be rich. We want to be powerful. So because we have these desires, material desires, therefore, this bad material energy is keeping us. But you see, it's not bad. It's doing a thankless task of keeping those who are rebellious to the Lord, keeping them separated from the Lord. And as soon as they realize that, then Maya congratulates us. She's not a diabolical enemy. She's ready to give us liberation, but her job is to see that we actually become qualified to enter again into the spiritual world. That means we have to give up our sinful life. Sinful life means putting ourselves in the center. That's all right, Mr. Gautam?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Sanjay?
Yeah, I have one question. Since you used one point that half-truth, but truth is binary. Either it is true or false. So what is the meaning of half-truth? Like, I mean, you start believing...
Well, when they say that we're God, there's some truth to that in the sense that we're also part of God. We're God, just like if we say the sun and the sunlight. They're the same in one sense, but they're also different. If we open the shade and the sun is coming in, we say, oh, the sun is in the room. So is that the truth? Yes, it's the truth, but it's also not the truth. Because if the sun was in your room, you'd be burnt up. So there's a half-truth is that we are God, but we're not the full manifestation of God. We're the particle, the fragmented. That word uses amsa. 15th chapter, text 7. Mama vamsa, amsa. Mama amsa jiva, the jiva, not the paramatma, but the jivatma, the jiva. So we're the jiva. Mama vamsa jiva goloke, jiva bhuta sanatana. We are eternal, but we're dependent eternals. So there's two eternals. God is the independent eternal, and we're dependent. So if we're honest, we have to admit we're dependent.
So we have Somesh Batra. He joined from Atlanta. He was my batchmate in engineering college. So just
Hare Krishna. Nice to meet you, sir.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Actually, I saw the last session, and by chance it was on Facebook, so I saw that, and I asked him, because I was very impressed, and I had a lot of inquiries after that. So I asked Sanjay if I could join, and let me know when I can ask any questions.
No, please, you ask now. Well, Sanjay, you asked the question. So you're satisfied about half-truth?
Yes, I am satisfied with that one. And usually over here, people always ask why you guys believe in many gods. So when you said like fire has two things, it's not just fire, light and energy in it. So does it explains that about the duality, or the God is not just one, it's many, but many is one?
Yeah, within that one, there are many. Krishna is going to explain this in the next verse, here in the 9th chapter, that he's one with everything, but he's also separate. This is called Chinta Beta Beta Tattva. It means one and different simultaneously. And the example is given the sun and the sunlight. And then if you want to carry the example further, we say the sun, the sunlight, and a lump of coal. Now, a lump of coal is actually nothing but the energy of the sun. Millions of years ago, the trees were growing because of photosynthesis. The trees grow up, and then they fall down and get pressed into the earth. Oil is the same thing. Oil is nothing but the energy of the sun, but it's a byproduct. It's not directly the sun. So the material energy is a byproduct of God. It's not directly God, but so going back to that example, we can show that the lump of coal is nothing but the sun. When you put it in the fire, then the energy of the sun comes out again.
Yep.
Where's that energy coming? If you put a rock, it won't have the same effect. But a lump of coal, it will burn because it's energy of the sun, and it's again becoming manifested. So the material energy is like the byproduct of God, or the external energy, and it has a purpose. And the Lord is distinct and the living entity. So within that oneness, there's 3 categories: the Lord, the living entity, and material energy. But from God's point of view, everything is being done perfectly. Another example: the government is one, but it has different departments. The health and welfare department is giving people money and giving them food stamps, and the police department is locking people up and throwing them in. So it looks like they're working at counter purposes, but from the government's point of view, everything is being done properly. So that's why Sanjay was making the point about bad energy, but from God's point of view, it's not bad. Nothing is bad. Everything is being done properly. But from the criminal's point of view, it looks bad. So what is our criminal? Is that false ego, that I'm in the center. This is the criminal mentality we have. So we have to, instead of putting ourselves in the center, Ishavashamidam Savam, we put God in the center, and then we keep our ego. We don't have to give up ego. The Buddhists and others preach that we should give up ego, even the impersonalists. But we say ego is there even in the spiritual world. Ego means identity. What is the identity? Yes, I'm a servant of the Lord. That's an identity. We have a position there. It's not that we lose our identity. It's like a spiritual suicide. They say, yes, you become God. You lose your identity. Then what does that mean? I become God. What about me? I don't have any standing there? No, you have a standing. But your standing is that you're servant of the servant. It's a glorious standing. We have an eternal position. But if we want to be God, then that's a false desire. That's an impure desire. God is God. We can never be God. We can be godly. We can get in harmony with God. Our spiritual master used to give the example of iron in the fire. If you keep the iron in the fire, it becomes just like fire. You touch a red-hot iron and the fire starts. You touch it to paper or something. But still, it's not fire. But it becomes fireized. So we can become Krishnized by being in harmony with Krishna's desire. Then we become as good as God. Therefore, we treat the Guru Shakshad Hari. We say Shakshad Hari means as good as God because he's dear to the Lord and the Lord is using him. Just like when Krishna used Arjuna, then Arjuna became victorious because he was an instrument in the hands of the Lord. So we can also be victorious if we agree to become a tool in the hand of the Lord. But that requires we give up the false ego. Not all ego, we become real ego. I'm a servant. What's wrong? It's a glorious position. To be a servant of the king means you're living in the palace. To be a servant of God means you're in the spiritual world. And there's no more death and disease and old age and trouble. We can very quickly attain that position, but we have to follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Now our new friend, what's your name?
Somesh.
Sanjay?
Somesh, you.
Yes, this is Somesh. Yes.
Kamesh, what's your question?
Yeah, see, I want to be at a stage, like, God or no God or whatever. I want to be at a stage where, I would say I'm blissful. Like, there are moments when I'm upset, and I realize like there's never a like.
You want to be blissful all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
It's
So that's
not
possible.
impossible. And I'm ready to do whatever it takes, except living my my family life. I know.
No, we don't say you have to leave your family life.
Yeah. But what would it take to be that?
Well, you say, in other words, we arrive some question. Who am I? What is the meaning of life? Why am I suffering? So those kind of questions are good. We have answers to them. But if you want to be blissful, then you have to understand the philosophy. The philosophy is that you're a particle of God. Now, if you don't want to talk about God, it's difficult to explain. What are we doing here? How did we get here? Why do we have to die? So, but if we understand there's a God, and he's a friend, then everything can become explained. But if you don't believe in God, then it's difficult for us to explain to you.
I'm not. I feel like this is what I've been telling myself. Not a logic around it. That God has his own place. I have my own place, and so I never searched for God or never had inquiry about God. But always inquiry.
Well, we were just mentioning before you came on that we're dependent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to accept that we're dependent. We're dependent on the sunshine. We're dependent on the air that we breathe. Yeah. So who's supplying that? So we say Krishna or God is the independent. He's we're also eternal. He's also eternal, but he's independent and we're dependent. So if we have that concept, then we can begin to understand how to become blissful. To become blissful is when the dependent gets in harmony with the independent. Well, Christ said, thy will be done. We say God has a will. If we get in harmony with his will, just like Arjuna did on the battlefield, then everything will come out to our satisfaction. We'll feel great satisfaction. Otherwise, here in the material world, we may be satisfied for a few days, sweet 16, but then bitter 60s. When we get old, they see the people are not so happy because they don't have any philosophy. They don't know what's the purpose of life, where they're going, what's going to happen when they die. But we have all those answers because we accept Krishna. So we recommend that you study Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
And then you'll begin to appreciate Krishna more and more. That he's our friend and he's ready to help us. He comes, he helps Arjuna. He promises, my devotee will never be vanquished. Like that.
Basically,
okay.
Just before Somesh joined, you were answering about the half-truth, which was very much clear in that one. Like, I mean, God is inside us, but we are not God. Don't completely understand that we are God, but we have a component of those things which we have to balance to use in our practicality of our life. Like, you don't have to give up your family life. You don't have to give up anything. It's just a balance of everything.
Yeah, you don't have to give up anything. Just add this. Add the Krishna consciousness. Add chanting Hare Krishna. We say this chanting is a very effective means of removing the impurities from our heart. So we should confess. We should admit that we're in a bit of an awkward position. That we don't want old age and disease and death, but they're inevitable. So why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you. Why is it that everybody has to suffer?
I think suffering is a choice, I think.
The choice? No. Where's the choice? You can avoid death. You can avoid disease. You have to suffer. What is the choice?
So okay. So this is what I'm talking about mental suffering, like a feeling of suffering. You are talking about actually.
You can be in a police station and the police are beating you, and you can imagine you're not suffering, but the reality is you're being beaten by the police with a rubber hose. You can imagine, I'm happy, I'm not. No, but let's just get real with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has to suffer, mental suffering and physical suffering.
Right.
There's no avoiding it. So the answer is we're suffering because we're accepting a body and mind as ourself. We should accept the soul as the self. The soul is different. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. These are my external entities. Besides that is the living entity. So the soul, the Atma, is different than the mind and body. That's what we really are. And the soul is eternal and blissful and full of knowledge all the time. So if we get in harmony with the soul, but the soul is not existing in a vacuum because it's dependent. So therefore it needs the Paramatma or the Supreme Soul. Like Sanjay was saying, the Lord is in our heart as Paramatma. He's not like the same as us. He's Para. He's supreme. He's the Supreme Atma, and we're the Jivatma. We're the small Atma. They're like two birds on a tree. One is the witness, and one is the active one. So where the Jiva is acting now, and Paramatma is in our heart, he's observing our activities, and according to what we deserve, what we desire, we're accruing some karma. And so karma means that there's a judge who's deciding, yeah, this is good karma, this is bad karma. The next life, we get a particular body, depending on our karma. But Krishna is offering in the Bhagavad Gita that you don't have to get another material body or another material mind. You can get a spiritual body if you take the process properly.
Okay. So how do if I want like get in harmony with my soul? Like
yeah, that's a good question. Sanjay, how does he do that?
Okay, I mean, just like he is a computer guy, so he understands very well in the computer analogies, and that is also based on our like how our mind works. Computer is also developed like that way. So harmony depends upon, like, it's basically balance. You have to create a balance of everything. And as normally it is said, like God is in you, but not literally he is in you. Means like those power you have inside you, but you have to balance for each things basically. So harmony is basically something is not in sync. So you have to identify what is not in sync. Probably you are doing too much in that area, and other things you are not doing it. So just like in chemistry also we have Le Chatelier's principle, where chemical goals try to balance each other's basically. So you have to create those balance. So first you can notify what is the problem, what is not in sync, what is not in harmony. So that way you can be clear, like something definitely is stretching too much, something is neglected also. So when you create balance in there, then you'll get the harmony.
So the balance, we say, is to bring a spiritual life also. Sometimes our spiritual master gives the example of a bird in a cage. So we keep the cage clean and we feed the bird. But if we just think the cage is only important and the bird is not important, that's foolishness. So that's what materially many people just think that the cage is important. The cage means the body and mind. But what about the soul inside? That's more important. So we have to have a spiritual nourishment also.
So
we have to feed the bird, not just polish.
Okay. So what is the way to get spiritual nourishment? Like
you've done that tonight by coming in association with those who are discussing these things, who are trying to understand it more deeply, or who have knowledge.
I was going to say, like, what is the way? Means like, your first way will be you have to go from 1 to 18. There are 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. So once you go complete, you will have complete picture. Then probably will help you to create the balances.
The balance means that take some interest in spiritual life. We have so many books on the subject. Have you read Bhagavad Gita?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so that's our main book, Bhagavad Gita. Everybody knows the Bhagavad Gita. And then we have these discussions regularly. We can meet and discuss. It's good to have this saintly association, and then you get a better balance.
I mean, I can send one Bhagavad Gita to him. Also, he can go to the, in Atlanta, we have one of the bigger ISKCON temple out there. And also the Mahamantra Japa is the first thing to become more, religious on that area. Because Krishna said, if you do the Japa for this mantra 108 times, your mind totally diverts to that area, and you moreover become more spiritual. So you have to start working on that. So there are a few ways we can do it. I mean, you do every day with your mala 108 times, and also you can do whatever you want to do, wherever you want to do. Like I do it all the time, either driving or thinking something or working on it. I just chant on those, and again, Krishna said you can do anywhere you want to do. It doesn't mean, even though you're taking shower, you can do this. So that's what Maharaj actually, had mentioned to me one time in ISKCON. He was actually giving us the lesson. So which is a great thing. I mean, it's not like you have to just, when you're sitting in the temple, you have to do it. So that's what I do, and I joined the international japa session, which is 9 o'clock every night. They do 108 times the session Hare Krishna Hare Rama mantra, so which makes me really peacefully and do many things in the right direction.
So his point is, Sanjay's very good point that, Mr. Gautam's very good point that this Hare Krishna mantra is especially recommended in this age. It's a simple mantra, only 3 words, Hare and Krishna and Rama. And the whole mantra is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So like he was saying, it's free, there's no charge. You can do it when you're taking a shower, waiting for the bus, whatever, in the car. And the effect will be that the dirty things in your heart will go away. What are the dirty things again? The dirty thing is false ego. I'm the center. What about me? We're so egotistical, like a child. So the child has to be trained. No, you can't hit your brother. The child may feel, oh, why can't I hit my brother? But the mother has to be there and say, no, it's not proper. So like that, in the material world, everyone loves themselves the most. So therefore there's so much quarrel. Don't you see how much violence there is in this world? How much quarrel over everything? Everybody's fighting. Hindu, Muslim, black and white, American, Chinese. The whole world is full of quarrel and violence because everybody loves themselves the most. So we're saying if you chant this mantra, then you can become a little peaceful to understand that you should love God. And then if you love God, everyone will be benefited. We give the example of watering the root of the tree. If you water the root of the tree, then all parts of the tree are benefited. The leaves, the branches, and so then if we actually satisfy God, that's what Arjuna did in the battlefield, then you'll be victorious. At the end, Sanjaya says, you know Sanjaya, he's the secretary of Dhritarashtra.
The Mahabharata Sanjay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll add something in there. Why we need mantras? Because with our computer analogy, it becomes a little bit clearer. Because usually in computers, what happens, like we get lots of processes. Whenever we think, brain's working the same way. It creates lots of processes and it jams lots of resources. So sometime, like you all have noticed, when our computer gets slow, then what we have to do? We have to shut it down, kill all the process, and start it fresh. And that's what the mantra does basically, because there are so many zombies process also create, like which is not in use at all, but still it's in the brain, it still keep thinking something else. So when you do mantras or japas, that helps to kill all those what Swamiji mentioned as a bad one. It's like those zombie processes, those are removed, so those are will be releasing some resources in our brain. That way it can function better way.
And not only the japa is done with the beads, but also we have kirtan. That's what I wanted to get Sanjay to come join our kirtan sometime, where we dance you saw us a little bit, but in our regular program, it's a very joyful program of dancing and chanting, and we go on sometimes for hours, and it's quite enlivening. You feel always afterwards. You always feel purified and fresh, and like you were saying, Sanjay, you feel like you got rid of the dirty things, and you feel ready to start anew.
In fact, we were lucky. One of our professor in our college, Dr. Pamlani. I don't know if you know Somesh. He was in civil engineering, Dr. Pamlani. So he used to do the chanting in the classroom also, and we had a couple sessions of ISKCONs in our auditorium once in a year or something.
Where was that?
In Delhi College of Engineering in Delhi, in India.
I see. They were brainwashing you.
No, he was like very practical person. He was nothing about like ISKCON, but he was very practical about. He started like empathy management during the college, because in the summer it's so hot over there, and we had to write the exams. So everybody was sweating and in terrible conditions. So he himself, in order to motivate everybody or the staff, used to start giving water to the students. And in India, everything is classified. Only this person will be doing giving the water, or it'll be below your status or something. But he used to do, so everybody used to follow.
That's nice.
Maharaj, Sanjay, actually, what I would like to say that is like earlier Maharaj said, Prabhupada was very punctual for every single thing. What we need to do that is every week, I think we have to put it in the calendar like way in advance. And if we have calendar way in advance in Kzaam and Bhujams, and we actually have little write-up from Maharaj, Maharaj can actually even send it to you and me. And so this way, actually, a lot of people can get knowledgeable on Bhagavad Gita and all the what are the best past scenes on those. So most important thing is that people to learn. We have in this crucial world we need to actually aware of many things. So I think as in the future going, we need to have bring number of people, number of devotees, and we definitely should do some kind of prayer also, Maharaj, with the mantra. I mean, that's if you allow, and that will be that way we complete our session.
This mantra is considered like a there's a one verse, Chaito Darpana Marjanam Bhava Bahat Nivarganam. It cleanses the heart of the dirty thing. Just like Lord Jesus said, hallowed be thy name. So the name of God has some spiritual potency. So if we take the name of God, then the impurities will gradually be diminished. And then we can be happy within ourselves. Even we're in an awkward position. We don't deny that we're in the material world and there's suffering and so on, but we're saying that when we come to the spiritual side, we can find satisfaction even in such a condition. Just like Lord Jesus, he was being crucified, but he was saying, Father, forgive them. He was asking God to forgive those who were persecuting him. So that's a very advanced consciousness. I don't claim to be at that level, but we can appreciate that what kind of consciousness he had, that he was feeling sorry for those who were crucifying him. Most of us would be thinking, well, goddamn, well, you should go to hell. But he was so aloof that he could, even in that awkward position. And in our tradition, we have many like that. Haridas Thakur, Prahlad Maharaj, who were being persecuted, but they were still compassionate towards those who were persecuting them. So that's not, we can't artificially imagine that we're at that level, but this is our goal. We want to become fully God conscious, and then we'll see everything is the arrangement of the Lord. Everything that comes into our life, we can accept as favorable, and this way we can be happy even in this life. We don't have to change, like you say, you don't have to change your family, but just add this Krishna consciousness.
Okay, so I will get Bhagavad Gita, I'll read that, and also start doing this japa.
Okay, that's a great commitment you're making.
In fact, till the time you don't have the book, it's online also. You can go to the as it is, I think, website, or there are so many other one also. And especially for people who are starting and doesn't have, like, the way as it is Gita, it explains mostly about the God. But there are some different perspective also you can take it from there are different Gitas. Because sometimes people get nervous, like why we have to surrender about the God and what it means basically. So, we'll come on later.
Yeah. That's we can convince them. Because if you don't surrender to God, you surrender to your mind. And your mind is your enemy. Oftentimes your own mind is your worst enemy. So the surrendering thing, people get afraid, but actually we're dependent. Like we were mentioning before, we're always dependent. So either you're dependent on the internal energy of God or the external energy of God, the Maya. So why not become dependent on God directly? It's not an artificial position to surrender to God.
No, that's like what happens normally. Like when you say like a surrender to the God, people start imagining like God is something outside, not inside us. Somewhere outside whom we are going to bow and on. But as you said, the half-truth part, at that time you mentioned like God is inside us too. So you are not surrendering something like someone else. It's part of you itself. So basically giving more dedication, more, like that's how to create the harmony.
Very nice. Okay. Maharaj, I think actually, Vesh, send me your address. I can mail Bhagavad Gita to you.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Please do that. Okay, Sanjay ji, please add him in our group as well as he can send me the address so I can mail Bhagavad Gita to him so he has it for the next session.
Sure.
And if you want me to write something, what are we going to speak about or something, I can do that.
Yes, we want to do that, Maharaj. Definitely. We will have a chat tomorrow, me and you, and I will bring Sanjay on the line. We definitely talk about it.
Okay, then for tonight we're finished, huh?
No, we have Devi ji also in our session. She didn't ask any question. We want her to ask some question. Devi ji, Shara.
Hi, how are you? I don't have any questions. I was just listening.
Can you create one question? That way, at least you will put some energy to think.
No, don't force her. If she has no question, that's okay.
Let me think. I don't know yet. Maybe next time.
Maharaj,
that's what
I do
last
have
time you mentioned, that next time.
Maharaj,
So this is second time.
Stop picking on her.
Maharaj,
You're doing okay, Sarah.
I'm asking her to start thinking.
Maharaj,
I have a question. I have a question for Sanjay.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you're making the point that, okay, God is within. But that's more like the yogis thinking like that. God is within. But we're saying God is also, Krishna said, we don't say, he's also without. This is the verse we're going to read tomorrow. Let me read it right now.
Okay. Which chapter?
The same chapter with the next verse.
Okay.
Krishna says, by me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet, everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I'm everywhere, I am not part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. Understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me. So in that sense, yeah, Krishna is our best friend, but the localized feature, the Paramatma feature, that feature is only there in the material world. In the spiritual world, there's no Paramatma feature. So Krishna is also outside. We shouldn't be afraid that because God has his own creation or his own abode and his own personality, that surrendering to him will be dangerous. No, he's the seed-giving father. He's the cause of all causes. So what is the difficulty in surrendering?
No, absolutely, you're right about that one. But we take like baby steps, or in order to cultivate that things as a normal routine in our life, it takes a little bit effort or a little bit understanding. So step by steps, we reach to that point.
Okay, but we can take a big step forward and understand that we're dependent. And there must be somebody who's independent. If we're dependent, what are we dependent on? Well, we're dependent on the nature, yes. But whose nature? Krishna says, this is my nature.
Right.
Otherwise, the atheists think, oh, nature is just working by itself. But we say, no, there's intelligence behind it. The sun is rising, the seasons are changing because there's some intelligence behind it. It's not just by chance.
Correct.
So intelligence means a person. Intelligence means a brain. And Krishna says, I am that brain. So don't be afraid to surrender to Krishna. That's my last, my advice. Don't be afraid of Krishna. He's your friend.
Absolutely. We wish or not, anyway we surrender to the nature, because even though we have created so many things with our mind, but nature comes and destroys things or do its own part.
Just like this virus is coming.
Yeah.
Nobody wants this virus, but now that it's coming, so we have to deal with it.
Like in California, the fire is going on right now, even though there's so much advanced tools, but it's still, it's beyond our hands, beyond human hands.
There's also floods who come. In India, you see every year there's floods. What can you do?
Correct.
Okay, so thank you very much. And I want to keep in touch, Sanjay.
All right, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the session.
I'd like to talk about.
Well,
Hare Krishna.
won't you do the kirtan in the end?
We can.
Last time Swamiji wanted to do.
Maharaj, Sanjay is asking, can we do a small kirtan quickly for a few minutes?
Okay, what about Govinda Jaya Jaya? Everybody knows that?
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's a famous one in India.
Yes.
Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya
Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya.
Hey Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya.
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 All right, I can hear you. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya.
Hey Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya.
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 Gopimananda.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. See you next time.
In
Hare
fact,
Krishna.
just yesterday
Hare
it came
Krishna.
across again to me like the clapping. Like normally in India, when we woke up in the morning, we just rub our palm, and then put it on the face. The reason is like so many nerves in our hands. It's activate everything. So same way when we do on our face, and that's how we woke up. Coming back to this world. So that's why even in kirtan, when we do the tali, it activate all those things.
Good.
Maharaj, can you give him the diksha so he can become Hare Krishna complete devotee?
Let's go one step at a time.
So he can have, we can change his attire also.